Okay, here we go. I am the one.
Good evening and welcome to a special 90-minute edition of BET Tonight. I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, glad that you are with us, and we are pleased tonight to be joined by the artist formerly known as Prince, for whom we'll take your phone calls for the entire 90 minutes tonight. Glad he's with us here in Washington. Artist, how are you?
Perfect.
It is nice to see you.
Nice to be seen.
Thanks for coming on, man. Let me start by asking you, how's the foot? I know that you just wrapped this, we all know you just wrapped the tour with Shaka and Larry, who we're going to be joined by, of course, later in the program tonight. But you had to reschedule some dates because of the foot. Tell me how, and the important things first, how's the foot doing?
Everything's fine now.
Yeah.
I hurt it in a strange freak accident, misstepped on a ramp, and my toe went underneath my foot. And when that happens, when your big toe gets underneath your foot, all trouble breaks loose. But everything's cool now. From the bottom of my heart, I'm so disappointed that I wasn't able to play LA. And
so were we, those of us who live in LA, who were waiting for you.
Yeah,
and,
hopefully I'll be able to reschedule and
get
that one down. But if not, you know, these are the things of life.
Yeah, they are. Let me ask you about the tour. Did you enjoy it? I know you just finished. I'm sure you're a little bit tired now. But what did you think of the tour? You still like going out doing dates?
Oh man, that's my life. I got into the music business because I loved playing so much. You don't really get into the business to be a star. At least I didn't. I didn't get in to make a whole bunch of money or anything like that and meet a whole bunch of women. Just so happens those are the things that came along with it. But I was always playing a lot, and it's what it's all about, jumping off pianos. That's
it's all about jumping off pianos.
Yeah, that's
and hurting your foot when you jump.
No, well, the jumping off the pianos is the easy part. If somebody puts a monitor someplace they ain't supposed to be, then
that's the bad part.
Then we're in trouble, yeah.
I'm wondering, when you're on tour, whether or not you still enjoy playing your old stuff. I've heard all kinds of rumors, and we are going to spend some time tonight, as you and I have already discussed, talking about all kinds of rumors that are out there about you. I want to give you a chance in person, live on BET, to respond to a lot of the mess and things that your critics have been saying about you. I want to hear it straight from you. But I'm wondering, for starters, whether or not you still, when you're out on the tour, enjoy playing your old stuff. I've read stuff that said you like your old stuff and you enjoyed other stuff that says you're burnt out on playing that, you're tired of playing certain songs. What's the story on what you like to play in concert?
If there were any statements made by me about not enjoying playing old music, it was probably when I was still tied to the contract with Time Warner. Once I got out of the contract, I started to reevaluate my trip, and I realized that, you know, these are like my children, and in this upcoming year, in 1999, we're going to make a valiant effort to regain ownership of the master recordings. They are a representation of me, and they will be all that will be left upon my departing of this experience.
I wanted to go there in the conversation. You know I want to go there. We've already discussed we're going to go there. Since you mentioned Warner, let me pick up on that segue and run with it. It is not lost on any of us that you had, for lack of a better word, a pretty bizarre, if not nasty, egregious split with Warner when you left. Back up if you can for a little bit and tell me about what happened, why you left Warner, why you felt so visceral about that split when you left.
Well, it was a long brewing thing. To put it in a quick capsule, once I really realized I wanted to be out of the contract is during the time that we released Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Now that master recording I owned, and I was allowed to step outside of the Time Warner family to promote and distribute the record. And I had a worldwide hit. Now that was during a time when, you know, you are quote unquote not happening anymore, and you're not cutting edge anymore, and these particular types of descriptions. So that just sort of whet my taste buds as to what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I think I'm better suited to market my own music. I am in a situation now with New Power Generation Records that I can take the music and repackage it and sell it in various arenas, the internet, direct to consumer, all kinds of things, at concerts. You know, I was never allowed to do this before. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a lucrative sum of money, and I've made a lot of money since I've left Time Warner, a lot more than I made when I was with them, all right? And this is a little known fact, I think, and that's why some of the, you hear some of the rumors about me being in financial difficulty and things like that. But, hopefully tonight we'll get to talk about media manipulation.
Oh, we will indeed.
Our people.
Let me ask you to respond to something that one of your critics, a number of your critics have said. It's been said repeatedly that you, comparatively speaking, compared to other artists on Time Warner, at Warner Brothers, were treated quite wonderfully. That you didn't have everything you wanted, but that you, in fact, were given carte blanche at that company. And that part of what really happened was that you got spoiled by the people at Warner Brothers. And when you asked for more and more and more, they had a difficult time trying to reel the artist, Prince at the time, trying to reel you in because they'd given you so much leeway, so much flexibility, and you just started to act like a little kid, started ranting and raving and throwing a tantrum. And the real problem was that they just could not reel you in because they'd been so flexible with you all along.
Well, listen, I'm not one to look at myself through other people's eyes. That's their perception of me.
Mm-hmm. But do you buy that perception?
Absolutely not. What had happened really was that the music business runs like this. You'll have a manager, you'll have an attorney, you'll have various record company people. Everybody's taking a cut of everything that you do. It got down to the wire there, and some people who were not in the studio at the time wanted a cut of When Doves Cry because, I'm sorry, they wanted a cut of the song Pray by Hammer because it contained a sample, When Doves Cry. Mm-hmm. All right? So when you're in the fold, when you're in the club and everybody's getting a piece of everything, your tour, your publishing, any endorsements, when they're getting a piece of all of that, you will have hit records. The moment you step away from that and you want to, in fact, take control of your own life, your own experience, then you'll find you're not hot anymore. You know, now my music really hasn't changed. I mean, you can listen to a song like The One, and for through my eyes, not other people's eyes, through my eyes, that's some of the best work I've ever done. You know, I rank it right up there with anything that I've ever produced. But looking at my experience through someone else's eyes, you're going to hear these things like spoiled child and what have you. Warner's was very good to me, don't get me wrong, and I learned from the experience. In fact, when I reevaluated the trip, I found that I had to challenge them with love. And in fact, I wrote a letter to one of the presidents there that I in fact loved him, and I thanked him for signing me in the first place, and that we had in fact each chosen to be in the position that we were in.
Does anybody get away with calling you Prince these days, or do they get slapped if they call you Prince or something?
No. You know what I find in airports and outside of the venues and things like that, people of color will always call me Prince. Mm-hmm. And what I also find is people of color always smile, and they always say they love me. You know, on the other side, the lighter persuasion, we have people just kind of stare, and they'll say Prince, and then they'll correct themselves. No, the artist, or they'll get confused.
Right.
And it's interesting looking through my eyes at this particular phenomenon.
Right.
You know.
Why do you think that is? The people of color treat you one way, and that lighter persuasion, to use your phrase, treat you another way with regard to what to call you when they see you.
I think we tend to live through our own more so, and we champion when one of us makes good, and we never forget. Like I'm so thankful. I always have my people at my shows, and they remember all the way back.
Oh, do they? Absolutely.
When I was doing the Purple Rain tour, I had a lot of people who I knew I'd never see again at the concerts, just screaming in places they thought they were supposed to scream. You know, so that mountaintop type situation is not really all it's cracked up to be.
Let me back up. Let me digress if I can, and talk more specifically about the name change. There are a lot of folk who are still in fact confused and don't know exactly what precipitated the name change. It is my understanding that the name change was inextricably tied to what happened with the Warner Brothers situation when you left. And if I'm wrong, disabuse me of that notion, but explain to me and to those who are watching why the name change happened. What was that all about?
Well, I'm finding, after studying my music now for the past 3 or 4 years, that when one completely listens to one's inspiration and inner voice, you will create things out of it that will lead you towards enlightenment. And one of the things that I was asked to do by my inner voice, which I believe to be my higher power, I was asked to change my name. Now, it seemed pretty absurd at the time, but what I found out is when I got into a situation with Warner's where I wanted to leave, they said, "You can't leave, we have you under contract." So,
you as in Prince?
That's right.
Was under contract?
Right.
Okay.
So then I changed my name and found that I could record with this name outside of that contract. The other thing is, as you can see, Most Beautiful Girl in the World was not by Prince. It was by me.
Right.
All right. And the other thing I found is that it freed me from being Prince. It freed me from thinking like Prince, and it freed me from my ego.
What's wrong with thinking like Prince? Prince had some major hits. It's what made you who you are today in terms of, I mean, it started you down this path. I'm just curious as to what you mean when you say it caused you to stop thinking like Prince, as if that was something bad or something negative.
No, but Prince was in a trap. Prince was under contract to, Prince was owned, you know. Now, I can't use Purple Rain. I can't use this song. I can't sell the song Purple Rain now unless I record it again, which I have plans to do if I can't, in fact, get the master recording that I believe is one of my children, you know. So I had to get freed from the mentality of being a slave. You understand?
Right.
Okay, and that's not to equate myself with the same situations that we suffered coming to this country, but you know, everything is relative. If you are owned, you are owned. If you can't do everything that you want to do, if there's a ceiling and you're not allowed to go as high as you can go, you are in fact a slave.
Let me squeeze in some phone calls, and I know there are many people standing by tonight. I read somewhere that you don't like the word fan. So I don't want to say we're going to go to the phone calls and get calls from your fans, and I want y'all to play yourself when you call and say, "I'm your biggest fan, Prince," or the artist. What do you have against the word fan? We supposed to change our names too?
No. Well, it's short for fanatic.
Right.
And if you look that word up, it's not very pretty.
Okay. Gloria in Florida, you're on the air, and I'm glad you called.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Well, the artist, I just wanted to say that I truly admire you, and I really was so proud of you when you took that move from Warner Brothers to doing your own thing. I used to work in a record store, so many of your records, and today you look so happy being in charge of who you are.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it's kind of like to thine own self be true. And I truly admire you, and I appreciate your music so much. I'm sitting here with my 21-year-old who still he thinks you're the best thing since bagged sugar.
Gloria, I thank you for your phone call. Is Gloria right on point when she suggested you are happier now than you've ever been?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I thank God every day. We as people, because we have to answer to a 9 to 5 or answer to a boss or whatever. You know, man didn't come to earth like that. Man came to earth for recreation, which means recreation, and to recreate love, you know, and you can't do that when you're constantly angry and you're constantly being held back. I had good, wonderful years at Warner Brothers. There just came to be a point where I wanted to go farther. You know, I was being accused of being a bad businessman and things like that with my record label over there. Excuse me. When in fact, I wasn't allowed the same leeway as, say, some of the other so-called icons that are still over there doing business with them today. So if the playing field's not equal, and it really wasn't, and they know it wasn't, then you got to step away. So I am, in fact, happy.
Since you were, for a variety of reasons, unhappy at Warner, you left, you started MPG, how have you structured your company differently than the experience you had at Warner Brothers, so that when people sign, when other artists sign with you, the artist, that they don't end up as unhappy with you as you were with Warner? Does that not make any sense?
Oh, it makes sense.
Okay.
First of all, once again, I just want to say, you know, the industry way of doing business is cool for them. We're just an alternative. And the first rule with us is that there are no rules. And the main thing that I want to stress is there are no contracts. All right, now that's very important for several reasons. We don't plan to go into litigation and fight one another. We don't go into the agreement thinking we're going to end up in court. You know, we go into this to make music. Larry and I have no contract, and he always makes a joke that, you know, if we did, what would we put on it? You know, the studio time is free. All we have to do is keep the electricity on, you know. The other thing that's real important to us is we all together have started to study words like contract, and the fact that con being the prefix means something negative. It's the opposite of pro. All right, you have words like consequence. You know, we're the genesis. We don't want to be the end, so to speak. Contradiction, convince, trying to convince somebody of something that they should already know. We don't want to adopt somebody else's way of doing business, you know.
But aren't artists, with all due respect, contracts protective measures? I mean, you may not go into a situation expecting someone to play you or to diss you or to act a fool in the process, but if in fact that does happen, how then does the artist, for example, protect himself even?
Well, I can't be played. A person trying to play me plays themselves. It's happened many times in the past. One day, maybe I'll bring that out, but Larry Graham's not going to play me. I'm not going to play Larry Graham. Shaka Khan's not going to play
wasn't it your thought when you first signed with Warner Brothers that they would never try to play you, and yet you ended up having to change your name and leave because they at some point in your mind started trying to play you?
Well, they initiated the contract. I could have gotten into the music business without a contract if that's the way the system was set up. That's my point, is that that's the way they do business. We do business differently. We do business in a way that there is no business. It's about the art. You know, it's about the relationship and the love of one another.
Before I get to some of these remarks that some of your critics have made about you of late, since we're talking about contracts, you saw earlier at the outset of the show, as a matter of fact, you were watching that show that night, I understand, when Jimmy and Terry were on, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and they made some comments about contracts. One call came through from a young person and asked them their advice on what to do. The caller said, "What should I do if I want to get started in the music business?" And you and I talked about this a few days ago, and I got the sense in our private conversation that you were a bit unhappy with the advice that Jimmy and Terry offered this particular caller. Am I totally off base here?
Well, yeah, Jimmy and Terry, they're my brothers, and they know I got much love for them, but their advice to the caller was ill-advised, because it's most important that you keep ownership of your master recordings. That's your social security. If you don't have that, you out to poo. You're straight off the meter. And if we don't start stating that first off, if we don't start getting that right first off, you know, all else will fall afterwards.
I'm reading from a national magazine, had this to say about you. Where was Rolling Stone? Where was Vibe? Talking about when your last CD set came out. Where was Rolling Stone? Where was Vibe? Prince demanded that they give him the cover for an interview. And so far, both Vibe and Rolling Stone have said no. I'm quoting from an executive at Rolling Stone, and I quote, before I quote, he's talking about the fact that there are a number of reasons you put somebody on the cover. The quote begins here. One reason is the impact they are having artistically. Another is the impact they are having culturally. A third is the impact they are having commercially. Right now, those factors are not conjoining to make it a given that we would put the artist on the cover. An editor at Vibe magazine suggests artists that it's not to say that you don't still have a certain amount of greatness, but like Michael Jordan, he can still sink the last basket, but he's not the player he was at 25. They say that you seem to be heading further away from the cutting edge you once had and closer to some sort of R&B Legends tour, and so far, you may not deserve to be on the cover of Vibe.
Well, there's a lot in that one. I mean, where should I begin?
Wherever you want to begin. It's your show.
All right,
I'm just here moderating.
We'll start with the cutting edge part. When a man is free, and it puts him closer to God, first of all. The path is open to get to God. It's probably in both of those magazines to keep me off the cover and out of their magazine, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to preach freedom, all right? And I'm going to preach the annihilation of contracts, all right? And see, without contracts, you ain't going to need lawyers, because nobody's going to be in court arguing about money, which has no power, ultimately. All right, so it's in their best interest to keep me out of those magazines. I completely understand. I only ask them to put me in there, and I will ask for what I believe I deserve, because I think I'm great. Just think I'm great, you know? And, we're still selling out arenas. And so somebody else thinks I'm pretty great, too. And I don't say that to be arrogant. I say that to show that I love myself. And if more people did love themselves, they'd stop worrying about whether someone was cutting edge or not.
I want to get to this premiere video in a second, but let me just piggyback one quick question, then we'll go and stand by. We're about to premiere the new video, the latest video from the artist, in about 2 seconds here. Part of what your critics also say with regard to what we're discussing now is that while you may be making money because you control your whole environment now, you're keeping more of what you make. But that does not necessarily mean that you're selling more records than you used to sell. Isn't it not true, artists, that you're not selling the records at the level you used to sell them?
Absolutely true. Okay. But then again, we're not in as many stores. Some stores are player hating, and
people player hate.
That's right,
Yeah.
rightfully so. I expected this, but then again, I don't gauge success based upon the way other people gauge success. This isn't about SoundScan and C-SPAN and all that. This is about our plan. This is about what we believe now. And if you ask any artist, the music is a success upon creation. When you give it to somebody like a Rolling Stone or a Vibe and they start critiquing it, then your perception changes. But that's looking through somebody else's eyes. So again, we gauge success based upon what we feel in our hearts. We've shut our minds off now. Minds should be used for what they were made for, filing cabinets. We think with our hearts.
Okay. I ain't mad at you. We've been promising it to you for weeks, and now the time is finally here. It is the BET world premiere of the newest video from the artist, entitled Come On. Hit it, Lamar. We're back live here on BET Tonight. I'm Tavis Smiley. He is the artist. There you saw the latest video from the artist, Come On. I hope you picked up on the fact that was the artist dressed up in that little old man outfit.
No, was it?
That wasn't you?
No.
That was not you hiding that?
Yeah.
Sure it was. Sure it wasn't, I should say. Speaking of that outfit, you last week speaking of play hate, got dogged, if I can say so, in the New York Post on page 6, because you wore an outfit similar to that on stage at the GQ Awards when you presented Chris Rock, the comedian, with an award. And I don't have time to read what they said about you, but it starts out by saying, this, believe it or not, is a picture of you in the paper. This, believe it or not, pictured above, is the weirdo still known as Prince.
Well, there you go.
And they go on to dog you about this outfit. Apparently they hadn't seen the video and didn't understand what the synergy. You upset about this?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, that they draw that type of energy towards themselves when they make such comments.
Right.
You know, I never respond to a mentality like that. It's useless.
People have always been obsessed. I mean, from day one. And I wish I had time to like just roll out a whole stack of photos here of how your image and how your look has changed over the years. People have always been obsessed with the way you look, with your style, with your appearance. Why do you think that is, number one? And tell me honestly whether or not you play into that, you take advantage of that, and you tease people, and you play on that. That obsession with your image.
Sometimes I do, but I think they are vicariously living through these image changes. You know, at the heart of the matter, though, is the music. You know, I am a musician. I don't sample. You know. It's not Memorex. I go on stage and my microphone is on.
Speaking of sampling, what do you think of sampling? It's not for you, but what do you think about other people who do it, because everybody other than you practically is doing it?
You know, I wouldn't know what to say about it. I can't have a real educated answer for that because I play, I guess, you know. When you can sit and play I Want to Take You Higher for 45 minutes with the man who was in the studio when it was recorded, Larry Graham, I mean, why you want to sample something? That, you know, just for me, personally.
Do you have any idea? This is just total curiosity on my part. One of the great things about hosting a show is every now and then you can ask something that you just want to know. I don't know if anybody else wants to know this, but I am so curious as to how many, if you have any idea, how many unreleased songs done, cut, unreleased, sitting around Paisley Park, in PG. How many songs do you have unreleased? Do you have any idea?
I kind of don't like to speculate because it's upwards of 1,000, but...
songs that are done that could in fact just...
Yeah, it's upwards of 1,000, excuse me. I don't like to speculate because it makes me tired, makes me realize that I actually am 40 years old, so...
Tawana in Maryland, I thank you for holding. You're on the air.
Hi. Hi, I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try to put into words how big an admirer I am of, well, I don't call him the artist, I call him the genius. So I'll just go ahead and just ask my question. My question is, this interview is basically live and not taped. So what made you decide to come on to this particular show and do such a personal one-on-one interview that's not in a controlled setting? I mean, Tavis isn't even playing around. So what would make you come on out and do a uncontrolled interview like this?
Well, thank you for your compliments, first of all. I just wanted to, as we approach 1999, I've just been doing a lot of thinking about how people of color have been left out of the space program. They don't really see us in Pleasantville. You know, and I think a lot about something that is going to unite us all. We have to find out what that is, because, you know, if Jesus came down here, we'd probably not recognize him. And I think it's important that we all unite for something now. And I just wanted to come on and talk about maybe that could be freedom, you know.
I'm glad you came on and talk about it.
Yeah.
Tawana, I thank you. Teresa in Delaware, you've been kind to hold you on the air at the artist, and I'm glad you called.
Yes, how you doing, Travis and the artist?
Good.
I want to say that, Prince, I think you are so fine. But my question is to you, how come you don't have any concerts in small towns, and how come you're so private where the public cannot get a hold of you to, as far as like writing you letters or getting anything or more information about you?
My first experience with a fan, and I call her a fan because she was pretty fanatical. I used to answer her fan letters all the time, and she became very attached to me. And next thing you know, she was at my door, and she didn't want to leave. I've had people come up to my porch and try to get in, break in, all kinds of strange things. So I've been pretty private since these events. As far as playing concerts in smaller towns are concerned, we have a lot of plans for doing concerts from now until I can't jump off pianos no more. You know, I was on stage recently and I said that people asked me what it felt like to be 40. I said, I don't know, because I'm 17. You know.
And still jumping off pianos.
I'm gonna still jump off the pianos.
Sharon in Maryland, thanks for holding. You're on with the artist, and I'm glad you called.
Good evening, artist.
Good evening.
I would like to know where you will be performing for New Year's 1999, and will it be televised?
Hopefully I'll be in the light. That's all I really want to say about that.
Let me ask you, in the time I have left before we go to the top of the hour, stand by, I should say, Shaka Khan and Larry Graham coming up in just a minute here. I got one minute here, artist. I don't know if I have time to even ask this and get started. As you look back on the song 1999, when you wrote it, and where we are now on the verge of 1999, any quick thoughts that come to mind?
Yes, if the sky has blood in it, blue and red make purple.
Pleased to be joined now by, she's all that on a bag of chips, Shaka Khan and the legendary Larry Graham. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I'm first of all cracking up because we have all heard 1,001 stories about artists who get together, go on tour, and they're not speaking after the third date, let alone after the tour is over with. And the three of y'all still appear to like each other.
That's a lot of love
agree to come on television together. You're still speaking to one another.
A lot of love.
Let me start with you, Shaka, and ask you, first of all, thanks for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure,
You're a legend.
Tavis.
It's nice to
Thank
have you
you
on. Let me start by asking you how you specifically, and I'll get Larry here second, how you came to be in this association with the artist. You were also at Warner Brothers Records.
Right.
You left. Tell me your story about why you decided to do this.
Well, actually, the artist is instrumental in helping me to leave Warner, actually. If not in his coaxing, then in offering some of his legal staff to help me to get freed up. Then once the seed was planted, you know, it was just a matter of time before everything just snowballed into what it's become right now. Soon after that, within months, I was free, and we were in the studio working on a CD.
You heard us talking earlier, you heard the artist more specifically talking earlier about freedom, and I noticed that you used the word freedom as well. What aspect of freedom, what about the freedom do you most appreciate? I mean, compare for me being at Warner and being at NPG and owning your own stuff and making, I mean, is it about making more money? Talk to me about those differences.
The thing I'm referring to is a very fundamental thing. It deals with the very essence of what you are. And when that is hampered with or affected in any way, the thing that you use to express yourself and to convey your thoughts and feelings to other people through a talent or some God-given phenomenon that you possess, when that's hampered or dealt with in any way, then you're totally messed up all over. It affects every part of you in every way. So, I mean, just to be able, just the thought and the knowledge that I can go into a studio and sing any song I wish.
Okay. Larry Graham, legend in his own right. We heard you heard us talking to Shaka earlier about how she ended up with this relationship with the artist. I know you guys have been friends for quite a while, and yet after all these years, the two of you now in this synergistic sort of way come together. Tell me why and how for you this process came to be.
Well, I was on tour. I did the Aruba show with Sinbad, and then that was followed by Tour Earth, Wind and Fire, and Graham Central Station, and Tina Marie, and so forth. And we were playing in Tennessee at the amphitheater. And my baby brother here was playing at the big venue, and I got this phone call at the hotel. Hey, there's going to be an after show tonight, you know, after party, and we're going to jam. You want to come down and jam with us? It's like, yeah. And so that was really the first time we got a chance to connect on stage and really speak from heart to heart with our instruments. That night, said a whole lot of hello and hey, how you been doing? Oh, everything's been going fine and all that. We said all that with our music and also carving out what we wanted to do for the future it was all taking place right there on stage.
This guy, the artist, was bragging earlier about the fact that you all don't have you don't have a contract, you don't believe in contracts.
What would it say?
Yeah, exactly. And he said that you would say that, and indeed you just said it. What would it say? I'm wondering though whether or not you, by the argument that I tried to offer to the artist earlier that he rejected, that people don't enter into relationships expecting them to go sour, but what do you do when it does go sour? Don't you want to protect yourself?
Well, I see your side, you know, how you...
I'm playing devil's advocate, I'm not pushing this, I'm just asking.
But our relationship that we have is different than any other. And I love the relationship that we have, and our relationship musically is built on love. With my wife, I love my wife. It would be kind of strange if there had to be this contract in the beginning of our relationship, if this or if that, and you know, all this doubt and all that put into it in the beginning, our relationship would be a lot different. You know, musically speaking, there's so much love in what we do, and what we do comes from the heart, especially the music. If we put all this negative doubt out there, what if this and what if that, I'm telling you that, you know, I don't really trust you. And you're telling me I don't really trust you either. And so let's get my lawyer to see how I can protect me against you and you against me. And next thing you know, it's like, you know, it's affecting the music, it's affecting the relationship.
It's the very thing too that we've been victimized by too, and a lot of artists are victimized by that same mentality, contractually and mistrustful.
Yeah, I actually think the contract is what makes the relationship go sour. It's almost the nail in the coffin.
You raised the issue earlier, Shaka, about creativity, and I want to come back to that because I thought you were onto something. I want to kind of explore this a little further with the three of you. I thought I heard you started to make the point that when an artist feels that his or her creativity is stifled, when they're under the gun, when they don't have the budget they need, et cetera, but it's basically when that creative process is being infringed upon, it makes you feel something, and you didn't really complete that thought. What happens in that place?
It's a very bad place to be. One loses interest. I was starting to actually like to lose interest in what I was doing. I didn't have the lust or the love for it anymore. Certain aspects of my career became a gig, a job, and that's what that's the beginning of the end when that happens. You know, I may as well go get a job at the post office or the bank if that's happening. You know, and it was like a cancer that was kind of growing, sort of an emotional cancer. And I tell you, the floodgates opened when we got in studio. We started working, stuff came out. There were a couple of instances I was in tears. There were some tears, and it was like a major floodgate of stuff that was just...
And mind you, let me just say this, you know, cover or no cover, I got much love for Vibe. I finally saw a review of our work that best typified what we believe. They said, what do they say, a certified masterpiece. You know, when how you gonna miss? And she made a good point about, she started to lose interest. This is how we lose artists, right? And we should save artists, and I challenge people to take care of her. You know, this isn't about money for me. I'm paid, you know. I don't have to do this for money. I do this for my love of her because I don't want to see her get lost. You understand? So I challenge the radio stations, I challenge the record stores to take care of her. That's almost our obligation. Music is our enlightenment, all of us.
As the head of NPG artists, let me ask you a couple questions in that regard. One about distribution and the other about your clientele, your roster of performers. I'm wondering, first of all, let me start with the roster. You recall earlier in the show we were talking about what some of the critics were saying about you, that you're losing your cutting edge, and we discussed this already, and moving toward that R&B Legends tour. I'm wondering how it is that you chose, of all the folk you can work with, and I know there are a lot of folk who would love to work with you, how did you choose these artists, Shaka Khan and Larry Graham?
Well, first of all, let me deal with the head of NPG situation. Shaka is the head of Shaka, right? I can't be the head of her. She was my director on this project. She told me what to do. I was a hired hand, hired by love, all right? And as far as why I chose her, we should probably ask Erykah Badu, you know? She would choose Shaka too, you understand? We want to work with the best. And Shaka was in a situation where she wasn't happy. There wasn't much coaxing that needed to be done. You know, I say to her very simply, how do you want to make a record? She says, I want to fully realize my vision. All right, well, you can do that over here. And see, this doesn't negate her going back and doing deals with record companies, even Warner's. It's just, I think the record companies have to respect the art first and let that be the genesis of all decisions made.
Exactly. Let me raise this question of distribution. You know as well as I do, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. You can have the best product, you can have the best performers out there. Ultimately, it is that distribution that gets you paid. If you've got stuff and you can't get it delivered, if you've got stuff and people can't buy it, it doesn't mean anything. How do you envision putting together a distribution channel when you're not with one of the big boys anymore like Warner's to get your stuff in the streets?
Okay, this is in the infant stages right now, and it's growing as we speak. For example, Crystal Ball sold upwards of 200,000 copies at $50 a pop. You can do the math, and you can see.
I did the math. You got paid. Yeah, you got paid a little bit. I did the math.
All right. Well, that's all I'm saying. 200,000 copies by industry standards would be a failure. But when you take the lion's share of the profit, what happens is, you know, it's really simple. You know, it's really simple. And like I say, I'll say it over and over again. I don't negate the other way of doing business. This is just an alternative. That's all it is. And as far as distribution goes, being in a situation like this, you can distribute your music all kinds of different ways. We sell them at the gigs, we sell them over the internet, and by the way, people of color need to get online. We are left behind again, once again. We sell them through Best Buy, Blockbuster, HMV. A lot of stores have been really cool with us, you know. And I mean, how do you not stock her record? You know, you understand what I'm saying?
I feel you.
You ask any of the current artists today, which we have much respect for, the Lauryn Hills and the Erykah Badu's and what have you, they got much love for her, you know. So it's our obligation. And as a musician, this is Michael Jordan on the bass.
Hello.
No question about that.
And that's open and shut the book. Now, how do you not stock that if you love music? So I challenge radio and I challenge record stores to take care of these people.
I got a break. We'll come back and get what you're doing. In many respects, is quite revolutionary. Breaking away from the big boys, doing your own thing, bringing artists with you from the big boys. Everybody in the music industry can't be happy about this. What personal risk to you and to these artists here do you think really exists?
You know, I have a lot of friends in the music industry still, and we plan to do business in the future. It's just an alternative. It's no big deal.
But you don't see this, I mean, be honest with me, you don't see this at all as risky in any sort of way?
Well, certainly not on our end. I mean, this has just been a learning, loving experience.
And I might add, too, that if I sold 100,000 of these at a company, they'd say, oh, that was a flop. And I'd probably be getting somewhere at 14, 15 cents a record.
Right.
If I sell 100,000 of these right now, I get $700,000. Excuse me.
Oh, all right. Enough said. We'll take some phone calls.
That kind of said it.
That says it. Janet in New Jersey, thanks for holding you on the air, and I'm glad you called.
700.
Hi, my comment is for the artist. I'm 14, and ever since I was really young, I remember being very mesmerized and fascinated by your music. And up until the age I am now, I've come to realize how much you have, in fact, influenced my life so far.
I hope in a good way.
Yes, and shown me what I can be if I just apply myself enough.
That's
and
right.
Basically, my question is, how does it feel to know that you have such an impact on your audience, particularly your younger audience?
Makes me feel very grateful to be alive. And all I can tell you is Jesus is far more important. I've stopped signing autographs when I changed my name, so anybody out there, please don't ask. It ain't about that. We all need to unite for a reason now. We need to welcome Jesus' return. And if we can focus on that, all of us, I think a lot of this chaos will cease.
Well, I guess I can throw this magazine cover away. I would not be getting it signed tonight by the artist. Rashida in D.C., thanks for holding you on the air, and I'm glad you called.
Good evening, Tavis, Shaka.
Hi.
Everybody. I'd just like to say, God, please bear with me because I am trying to be calm.
Take your time.
I just want to say how big an influence you have been on me to the artist. And your music, like you said before, it's not music, it's a trip. And it takes, I think, a little bit of brains to get into it.
Yes,
and not just the funk, but the beauty, like Question of You and Curious Child and Power Fantastic. I mean, the beauty, the broad spectrum, but that's just my homage, and I'll get to my question now. My question is, how do you feel about the ticket brokers and the people who buy mass tickets and the real fans cannot get, up close without paying $200, $300, dollars in order just to get a good look?
Well, we didn't create this system. Artists didn't create the system of ticket selling. Simple fact that they'll tack $8 on extra just to see you is, well, listen, it's one thing at a time, and hopefully we can work on that too. I just wanted to say something. I find a lot of people that meet me, I feel a lot of love that comes forth, and a lot of them do cry, and it's almost as though I think that they just want to be known, and they want me to know them. I think we all want to be known in some respect. That's kind of what we're into right now. Shaka's allowed to fully realize her vision, and I think my music, I always had creative control, which I ultimately thank Warner Brothers for. They allowed me creative control. I don't own the master tapes, but I had creative control to create them. She did not. Larry did not. Larry had a guy that was working on his music. His name was Title Man. All right, you deal with all of that. All right. Yeah. So I think my music has connected so much because I've had the chance to fully realize my vision. That's what MPG stands for. It's not a record company. There's no risk involved.
Let me change gears right quick and dramatically before my time runs out. I've only got a few minutes left in this show, unfortunately, because I could do this for another 30 minutes. There are rumors all over the internet, as you well know, artists, that you, Prince, and the Revolution, that is, may get back together next year for a reunion album, a reunion tour. Your sister was asking about ticket sales. It kind of made me think about that. What you think?
Yeah, I'm working on music that I recorded with the Revolution. I don't see a reunion happening. I mean, they're free to come jam with us anytime they want to. Rosie Gaines just came back and did some stuff with us. Sheila E's expected to come out soon. Candy Dulfer, who used to play with me, she came out and did some dates. I mean, it's just a really fun-loving circus out there, and it's never going to stop.
Tony in New Jersey, I got time for a quick comment. You're on the air.
Yes, the artist, did you ever learn how to swim? Do you still play basketball? Thank you for the towel in Philly. Shaka Khan, are you still making chocolate? And Larry Graham, I challenge you to one thing. What's the difference in nationality, your birthright, and color?
The difference in my nationality?
Yeah, I mean, I have information for you. You guys are on the correct path. There are things I know and things you obviously all know, especially when it comes to freedom. I'm free.
Good.
Now, my question to you is, I'm sovereign. What does that mean to you, the artist especially? I've followed you for so many years. I hear your journey, and I know where you're going, and I wish I could get things that I have to you, and you to I.
Well, sovereign to me, of course, is God. And he, of course, has the right to tell us what to do. We live by his standards. And Jehovah sets the standards by which we live. And then that filters on down to us. And then we try to the best of our ability to live up to those standards. Granted, no one is perfect, and we make mistakes. And that's why he let us know that he gave his only begotten son so that we can get forgiveness when we mess up. And we just try to do it again better the next time. So that's what I get from sovereign, being obedient to God.
I have 1 minute, literally, artist. I'm sorry, only 1 minute left in the show. I want to give you 30 seconds of that to tell me what the message of all of this is.
I think Larry best said it. You know, we got to unite for something. And as you see the three of us sitting here, we have no contract with one another. We've used love as our relationship as the basis for it, and thus we are successful.
Good evening from Los Angeles. I'm Tavis Smiley. Tonight, Prince on PBS. Struggled for days trying to figure out how to introduce this guy, and here's the best I've come up with. Ready? The artist formerly known and now known once again as Prince. That's the best I can come up with.
Lord have mercy. That's it, huh?
That's all I can come up with.
All right.
Because otherwise it would have taken me 20 minutes. It would have taken me the whole show to introduce you because you are so phenomenal. So thanks for coming to see me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Let me start with this Grammy thing. First of all, you rocked the Grammys.
Yeah.
That was an amazing performance. Did you enjoy it?
Loved it. Loved it. Yeah.
I was scared when I heard that you were going to do this thing with Beyonce, and I was scared, as I told you, because you were such all that by yourself. I was afraid that it wasn't going to come off right. Even though I love Beyonce, she's very talented. I was just afraid that Prince can't do nothing with nobody else. He got to do his thing because he's Prince. But it came off okay.
Oh, I pride myself in working with great musicians, and I consider her to be as such. She's amazing talent. She's a real deal. Yeah. So she just fell right into it. There was no problem whatsoever.
How did that performance come about? I mean, you decided to do whatever you want to do on your own terms, but how did that actually come to be?
Well, the producer, Ken Ehrlich, had been hounding me every year to do something. And this year we have a new record coming out, so and a tour scheduled. So I thought if this was going to be the year, then I wanted to do something special. Then the notion of working with Beyonce came about, and that made it extra special because I'm such a fan. So, you know.
Yeah, that's nice for Prince to be a fan of your stuff. Speaking of being a fan, as you well know, and I can't even hide it, I'm a fan of your stuff. And I guess a couple weeks ago, I went to Vegas to see you not in one show, but 2 shows. And you got to stop doing these things at 2 and 3 in the morning, because I can't stay up 2 days in a row.
Well, see, that's how I tell who's real and who ain't.
Am I authentic now?
Yeah, you are.
Am I real now?
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
I'm glad to hear that, then. All right. So if I can stay up at 2 and 3 in the morning, just not to see you go off stage. I mean, coming on at 2 a.m., coming on at 3 a.m., and playing to 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. But I stood and watched that audience in Vegas, Prince, and there are 2 or 3 things that stand out to me about your audience in particular. One, you have the absolute most diverse audience of any artist, no pun intended, that I've ever hung out with or experienced in concert consistently. What is it about you or about your music? I mean, I've seen the black thing and the white thing, and the Motown thing had the black folk and the white folk listening, but you have the most ethnically, culturally, racially diverse audience, I think, of any artist on the scene. Why you?
I think from the beginning, as I was coming into my own persona and understanding of who I was, I never talked down to my audience. And when you don't talk down to your audience, then they can grow with you. And I give them a lot of credit to be able to hang with me this long, because I've gone through a lot of changes. But they've allowed me to grow, and thus we can tackle some serious subjects and try to just be better human beings, all of us, you know.
The other thing that strikes me about your audience that's uniquely different is that your audience is very musically sophisticated. It's one thing to love music. It's another thing to have an audience of fans that is really very sophisticated about music.
Yeah, a lot of the people that come see us now, their parents listen to real music, real songwriting, real musicianship, and they respect somebody who takes their craft seriously. And I grew up that way, so you know, when we do our shows, I try to have the best musicians I can find with me at that particular time. And like I said, we don't play down to them. We don't, you know, we're just not, it's just not about a party. You know, that's going to be anyway if it's good music. But you know, you have to challenge them, and I think that's lacking in music today.
You have changed, as you said a moment ago, and evolved in so many ways, and have gone through so many stages in your own career development. You said a moment ago that because of that, you like to do different things. It's very difficult, oftentimes, for a performer, for an artist, to hang on to his or her audience when they're not doing the stuff that you know they want to hear. And you have a certain, and I say this with all respect, there's a certain arrogance about you that will come out on stage, and you know these folks done paid their money, and you know they want to hear Little Red Corvette, you know they want to hear Delirious, you know they want to hear Purple Rain, 1999, everything else, but you come out and play what you want to play at that particular stage in your life. And for your true core fans, they don't ever leave disappointed.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know who was the one that came up with the notion that you have to play the same songs every concert.
Probably fans.
Yeah. Well, you know, most of the people that come see us now, they've been to see me umpteen times, and the only pity is when they bring their kids and they're trying to show their kids the experience they had. But I don't know how any of us grow if we just, you know, tread water. The idea is that we keep growing, and like we were saying before, is the fan base I have now, they're so sophisticated, they almost expect me to do the unexpected. And that gives me a lot of room to challenge myself as well as them.
One of the things I've been dying to ask you about is this notion of whether or not you think too many performers, too many artists have become too racy and become so willing to sell a record that they will do just about anything to make that record sell. And I want to ask you that question specifically because you are the king, the prince of raciness. Because back in the day, you were like, you were, I mean, I can't even call it pushing the envelope. You were really pushing the envelope back in the day. So what's your sense now of artists who've gotten in trouble of late, pushing the envelope and being extremely racy for much of the American audience?
Well, you know, everything's relative. First of all, racy, back when I was quote unquote racy, as you say, I mean, it's pretty light now. I mean, if you take the words to Darling Nikki, which I got into a little bit of hot water about back in '84, if you take those lyrics and read them now, it's a little different than, say, the president of the RIAA reading the lyrics to one of these current hip-hop songs at a congressional hearing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's a lot different now. Anytime you have to rely on just raciness alone, you know, you can only, put it this way, you're going to get the audience you deserve. All right, so when we were wearing more risque outfits, we had a bunch of
risque fans.
That's right, in the audience.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're 21 years old, you're going to try stuff. When you're 40, it's, you know, you don't want to be pulling out body parts because it just it's old skin.
It's old skin,
so
yeah.
it's different then, you know. You don't want to be showing all that then.
Yeah. But we live in a world now. We live in a culture where artists and media conglomerates sell us. I just reading an article the other day in the LA Times about this very issue, that we get sold all this hype. All this hype gets pushed on us, and they're really selling events that really turn out to be non-events oftentimes.
Well, once again, they will get the audience and the consumer that they deserve. I mean, there's a glut in the industry because of this thinking. You know, it's all bottom line. It's all real quick. The artist turnover rate is really fast, and there's not a lot of substance. You know, there's a lot of these kids don't know how to play music because they didn't learn it. They weren't taught the art and the craft of songwriting, and it is an art. And if you don't respect that, then you know we're going to get a lot of these non-events going on.
I'm glad, but more importantly, the people who get a chance to play and work with you, I'm sure are glad that over the years, speaking of playing instruments, that you got to be a little bit nicer and let somebody play on your record. Because when you first broke, all songs written, produced, performed, lead vocals, background vocals, everything on the album was done by you.
Yeah. Well, there again, it's a situation where, where people, if they want me to go back and do what I used to do, they have to understand that it's my body of work, and I'm trying to put in that body of work things that I haven't done, so that when I finish and I look at all of it, it represents, the whole complete pie, as opposed to the same thing over and over.
Who's running the business now? There's a big debate now, and with what just happened to L.A. Reid at Arista, had more Grammy nominations on Grammy night than any other record label.
Right.
And they kicked him out of the building in New York with the quickness.
Right. Can I at least go to the Grammys and can I just...
Yeah, well, it was nice that Outkast brought him up on stage. I mean, that was nice. They gave him some love. But the question is, who's running the business now? Are the creatives running it? Are the suits running it? What's the state of the business these days?
Well, that changed a long time ago when it became merely bottom line. You'll see... If you go back and you look at music, you'll see a big change when MTV came into the business. Now, that's not to say that they're running it, but that sort of mentality is what is king now. It's not about content and substance. Hip-hop is very diverse, but if you only focus on one aspect of it, then what you get is this image of Black America that is completely contrary to what actually goes on. I've never seen you in a jogging suit. You fit and trim, but look at how you're dressed. The gatekeepers, they know who they are. We don't need to name names, but rest assured, they aren't musicians. They don't have anything to do with music. If you sit one of them in the room and you ask them, what is it that you do? How did you get this job? A lot of them came from law. A lot of them came from accounting and things like that. They're merchants, basically. And it's not to disrespect them or demean their role in any way, but at the same time, you can't expect them to know who they're signing and sort of gatekeep the music.
Let me change gears on you dramatically, because I've been dying to show this to you. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Maybe you have, but if you haven't, I want to show this to you. I went to see a movie the other day, and there was a clip in the movie that was absolutely hilarious, and I want you to see this, and I want to ask you something about it. Roll this clip for me.
With all the problems we got, black folks used to could say, at least we ain't crazy. Our crimes made sense. Ain't got no money, rob somebody with some money. Simple as that.
Hey, y'all don't want to admit it, but black folks just as crazy as white folks. Come on now. Hey, Mike Tyson, he's like 3 crazy people, man.
Mike sure is.
Prince.
Hold on now. He half Cherokee or something. Don't put him in there with us.
Prince is half Cherokee. Don't put him in there with us. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Did you laugh at this?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. There's a dispute over who my grandfather was on my mother's side. So,
right.
Yeah.
How do you? I don't know if this even matters to you, but let me ask anyway. What's your sense of how the public has viewed you as a personality over the years and how that has changed? I mean, do you concern yourself with that? Are you conscious of how you have been viewed over the course of your career? Does it matter to you? What do you think about what people think of you, if you think about that at all?
That's kind of a deep question.
I get one every now and then.
Yeah. I'm sort of like a because of some of the stances that I take, people are going to have different viewpoints of me depending upon which side of the fence they're sitting on. Like we were talking about the music industry, a merchant would have trouble being called a bean counter, when in fact they know that's true. They'd be hard pressed though to try to sing a song with me. So I don't really care so much what people say about me, because it usually is a reflection of who they are. For example, if people wish I would sound like I used to sound, then it says more about them than it does me. If I change the lyrics to a song, then it begs the question, why do you want me to curse? Why do you want me to talk like other people? See, cursing was cool when nobody was doing it, but just a couple people. You know? Yeah, like if everybody wears the same clothes,
right,
then it's, you know, it ain't cool no more. You know, you're trying to be different. One can't be different by being racy today. It's not interesting anymore. See, sexiness was in the mind. It was in your imagination. When you lose that, then, you know, like I said, it's just old skin.
Yeah. We've had any number of conversations over the years off camera, obviously, and you are a very, very politically astute, very much politically aware, a news junkie. And I've often wondered why it is that as interested as you are in the world that we live, and with all this happening in the world, what your thoughts are specifically in this election year, economically, politically, socially. I'm asking a broad question to give you room to play with here, but tell me something about your political views in this particular and all-important election year.
Oh, first of all, I think just the word political and politics and all that is just semantics. You know, an equal share of economic wherewithal is desirable by all. I mean, we all just want to take care of our families and do it to the best of our abilities and see the world. People want to travel and things like that. A lot of people that I know haven't even been out of the United States. So I consider myself more of a spiritual person than I do political. I'm more concerned with the truth, more concerned with why people won't adhere to it and why they see themselves as us against them. I used to think that we were the ones that came up with that. But see, we didn't start a lot of these wars. We certainly don't want to go to them. Yeah.
A lot has been written, and I shouldn't even say written, but there's been a lot of conjecture, a lot of conversation in the country about your spiritual evolution of late. Curious anything about that? Your spiritual journey?
Yeah, I'd say a big change happened for me in the year 2000 because I went back to using my name again.
And thank you for that, because it's hard trying to say what that symbol was.
Yeah, well, there was a purpose for that, and recently Anita Baker called me, and we spoke about her view of me writing slave on my face at the time. She said she didn't understand it at the time, but right after that, she had a lot of wars with her particular record company. And she's free now, and she owns her masters now. So she says to me, you know, I didn't understand it then, but I do now. I get it. Like I said, in the year 2000, once I changed my name back and the war was finished with my so-called enemies, I started reading the Bible intensely, and I come to find out that this is the truth.
Yeah. Good to see you as always.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Look at us on that camera.
Yeah. Do we look good?
Looking sharp. I'm feeling new sideburns.
Oh yeah. Well.
It's working.
And that black and white is sharp. When you're for the book, the best-selling book, 21 Nights, your photographer Randy was here. Randy St. Nicholas. Yeah, Randy was here. And I remember in that conversation, the two of us talking about the fact that you stay pretty much clean all the time. It's not like when you're in your house, you got on sweats and...
Randy said that?
Yeah, Randy said he's pretty sharp all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
That's not true?
Yeah, I sleep like this.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I would believe that, except for the fact that I know that you don't sleep.
Yeah.
You really don't sleep very much.
I saw a sign in the back said, journalist, advocate, insomniac.
Yeah. Yeah, well, for you it should be the world's greatest musician, insomniac. That's what it is.
Props to you on your show, seriously. I watch every chance I get, and UMass and Kayla last night.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Man, it's just so enlightening.
Well, I appreciate it.
Inspiring.
I'm glad you said that, because I was actually, I never told you this story, but one day when you were on before, I was around town somewhere, and we had promoted that you were coming on the next night. And I walked past a group of people, and they didn't see me, obviously. And I overheard them talking about you and the fact you were going to be on my show the next night. And one of them said, why would Prince go on PBS? And I was thinking, they don't know that Prince watches like everything, but indeed watches PBS.
Well, I keep an eye on you because, you know, you have been an advocate, and I learned a lot from State of the Black Union. You've sent it to me, and I make a point to try to check it out when I can. And that said, Dick Gregory, one time I saw him on there, and it just moved me so much. I put pen to paper, and I owe him money now.
Dreamer.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the song Dreamer that you dedicate to Dick. And actually 4 songs I want to get you to talk about the lyrics specifically. I'll get to that in just a second. Back to this PBS thing there right quick. I'll come back to that only because you really got into Unforgivable Blackness.
Yeah.
What'd you make of that PBS series?
Oh, I know. It's amazing. I'm in sort of celebration mode right now. I'm just thankful to be alive. I'm thankful to have the friends that I do and the teachers that I do. And I've spent the last year just playing when I feel like it. And I really look forward to this time in my life. And I happened to come across that show, Unforgivable Blackness, and the story of Jack Johnson just moved me to no end. One of the reasons is that he had to deal with seemingly insurmountable odds all the time. You know, if he would knock somebody down, people from the audience would get into the ring and pick him back up, you know, so they could continue fighting.
Yeah.
And I just related to it on a lot of different ways. I was, I've never spoken about this before, but I was born epileptic. And I used to have seizures when I was young. And my mother and father didn't know what to do or how to handle it, but they did the best they could with what little they had. And my mother told me one day, I walked into her and said, Mom, I'm not going to be sick anymore. And she said, why? And I said, because an angel told me so. Now, I don't remember saying it. That's just what she told me. And from that point on, I've been having to deal with a lot of things, getting teased a lot in school. And, you know, early in my career, I tried to compensate for that by being as flashy as I could and as noisy as I could. And, you know, I just looked, again, I look forward to this time in my life when I could reflect back on it and talk to people like yourself, Dr. Cornel West. I mean, when you all come over to the house and we sit and we just talk about heavy things, I just become thankful. I don't know what else to say other than that.
How did you get beyond? Because I know you have so many fans of all ages, and I think there are no doubt some young people watching who I know, in fact, not might, will be helped by your answer to this question. As a kid, being teased so much, and kids get teased for all variety of reasons, as we know, how did you grow out of that into, not just into confidence, but indeed into excellence? Or maybe I'll put it in the wrong order, excellence and confidence. But how did you grow out of that? How did you navigate yourself past that?
Good question. The first thing I did is of course, I went into self, and I taught myself music. My father left his piano at the house when he left, and I wasn't allowed to play it when he was there because I wasn't as good as him. So when he left, I was determined to get as good as him. And I taught myself how to play music, and I just stuck with it, and I did it all the time. And sooner or later, people in the neighborhood heard about me, and then they started to talk about me. And it wasn't in a teasing fashion, it was more like, wow, look what he can do. And there's something about having people around you giving you support that is, it's motivating. And once I got that support from people, then I believed I could do anything. And I had a a lot of really good teachers. My best friend Andre Simone, his brother Eddie, I'm entirely indebted to in this regard. He used to tell me, man, your songs are better than anybody's on the radio. You can do whatever you want to do. And I just kept rolling with it, Eventually I went out to New York and I got turned down my first time, but I just wasn't, you know, I felt like Jack Johnson then too. I just wasn't going to be put down, you know, so.
Back to this excellence thing though, talk to me about excellence. I mean, it's clear that you are head and shoulders above pretty much everybody else in the world of music. And that's my assessment, and a whole lot of fans agree. We all say amen? Amen. See that? So it's pretty clear you head and shoulders above everybody else. But talk to me about how we, who are not Prince, can aspire to the level of excellence that you portray in what we do every day.
Well, everybody's talented at something.
Right.
And that's what makes the world go around. We all need each other. And again, it's about good mentoring and good teachers. I had a lot of good people around. The other thing I have to point out, though, is that how can I put this? My father he was so hard on me. I was never good enough. And there was something about that. It was almost like the Army when it came to music. It's like, that's not even close to, he'd say, it's not even close to what I'm doing. And he'd play again, and I could hear it. John Blackwell, my drummer, he's the same way. His father taught him the same way. We learn like that. We learn from being shown. It doesn't come from books and just reading it. We need to be shown, you know. So it's just having really good teachers and a bar that's so high, you know, Tiger Woods. I mean, we can go on and on and on.
You talked a couple times about your father, which you don't do in public, and I appreciate your opening up in that way. Help me understand how, I'm trying to juxtapose, knowing you as I do, everything about you is love. You create love in the space that you occupy. When folk come into your world, they feel the love. Love is in your lyrical content. Your whole life is about a love of humanity. I'm trying to juxtapose how you got to this place of being love when you have this relationship with your father that obviously didn't always exhibit love. You could be a very mean person now. Why not?
Well, I have a mean side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me back up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I can go there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a fighter. I'm very competitive. I think from him being so hard on me, that the one thing I got out of it is I understood that in his harshness, he wanted me to excel. He used to say things like, don't ever get a girl pregnant. Don't ever get married. You know, don't this, don't that. When he'd say these things, I didn't know what to take from it. So I would create my own universe. And my sister's like that. A lot of my friends are like that, the ones that I still have, you know, early musicians and things like that. Creating your own universe is the key to it, I believe, you know, and letting all the people that that you need occupy that universe.
To your friends that you referenced a moment ago, how have you chosen, how have you decided to maintain the friendships that you have maintained over the years, and what's your barometer for knowing whether or not those friendships are beneficial? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell whether they're beneficial if someone's respectful of you. You know, respectful of you when they're not around you. I find that most people are pretty respectful in front of my face. When they're not around me, sometimes you hear them say some pretty hurtful things. And I don't know if they think it won't get back to me, or if I don't care, or if I think I'm above it, or whatever. But I remember them as I remember them. And we were in love then, we should be in love now. It's a hurtful place, the world in and of itself. We don't need to add to it. And we're in a place now where we all need one another. And it's going to get rougher. So I kind of hope that, I hope people, when they hear that, they don't think that I'm going to lash back out at them, because I'm not like that. I've never done that. I've heard a lot of things from a lot of different people, a lot of pretty famous people, a lot of journalists. A lot of my work is judged based upon my personality or my past work as opposed to where we are now. And I don't know, it is hurtful sometimes.
How difficult is it to live in a world, into your earlier point, which I take is a brilliant point, the world is already mean enough. We don't have to add to it. But how do you contextualize emotionally having much of your work judged by your personality rather than on the merits of the work?
Well, one reason is because I like criticism. I like constructive criticism from smart people. I'm thankful enough to, or blessed enough to be able to say that Miles Davis was a friend when he was alive. And he was a wonderful mentor and really, really funny, you know. And he could critique something you've done by humor, you know, and out of love, rather than just, you know, just call you a punk and just say, you know, just dismiss you. He wasn't like that, you know, because people he cared about, you know, he tried to help. When people criticize my work and attack my personality, it's doesn't help me. I can't do anything with it. And I don't know what they, you know, I don't know what they want. I've asked writers this before, and a lot of times they tell me that they just write for each other. They're not really writing for, you know. Well, I really got him that time, didn't I?
Yeah,
you know, like, okay, well, yeah. I don't know. Nobody learns anything from it. Really.
Who's qualified? I mentioned, I want to connect these two things. I said earlier that you were head and shoulders above everybody else in the music world, and most musicians, I think, even acknowledge that. Who's qualified, and maybe qualified is the wrong word, but it's the word I'm going to go with. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Who's qualified to critique your stuff these days? You mentioned Miles Davis. Miles, who's qualified to critique you?
Oh, anybody.
Music critics? Fans? Other artists?
Yeah, I don't mind critiquing anybody. If they do it with a sense of love, if they're trying to, you know, show me something about the work that, you know, they really feel is important for me to know. And I don't see a lot of that in journalism today. Most journalists are just lazy.
Yeah.
You know? It's like,
but if you said you like being critiqued and you love constructive criticism from smart people, how do people critique you if you are so ahead of your time, as you have proven to be consistently? If you're so ahead of your time, how can they critique what they ain't even caught up to?
Because they, listen, if they don't feel what I'm doing, they're going to let me know. If it's somebody I love, they're going to tell me they don't feel it, and they'll tell me the reasons why. And I can appreciate that. You know, I write all the time, I record all the time.
I want to go back to Jack Johnson, because he's still in the back of my head. I can't get him out of my head where this conversation is concerned. Who have you felt most often like in the ring fighting the record industry? Like Jack or the opponent?
Oh, like Jack.
Like Jack?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, because I knew I was right. You know, we talked about this in our very first interview and conversation together. It's obvious now that artists are supposed to own their master recordings. I mean, in the future, it'll be unconscionable to even think you can take somebody's creation and claim ownership of it. See, unfortunately, this discussion is going to start to barrel into a discussion about the human genome and the DNA and all the rest of it. When it gets there, then we're going to be in the deep water. See, so it's better to start the conversation now before we get into God talk, you know?
There are 4 songs that I want to ask you about, and I did what I have never done before, which is to actually print these lyrics out. Some of them, I'm since the record is so new, I'm learning some of them. I got some of them memorized.
Who gave you the lyrics, though? I've seen some really strange rewrites of my stuff.
Well,
I've seen one time they said the lyrics to When Doves Cry was, dig if you will the picture of me, Marvin Gaye, and the kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know what?
And then there was another one. This person will go unnamed.
Yes.
She didn't speak the English language too good.
Right.
She had a really cute daughter, so that's why we was acquaintances.
Yeah.
But she swore up and down, Little Red Corvette was pay the rent, collect.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
So you need to let me check that.
Yeah.
person.
You know, I'm a fast learner, so I'm not going to read none of these on the air. I'm just going to ask you about the songs and about the lyrical content. And for those who don't have the record, you can go to lotusflower.com and get it. And follow along at home. Even if you're 2 or 3 days late, you can play this back and follow along. In no particular order, since we mentioned Dreamer first, tell me about Dreamer.
Oh, well, when I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. I show it to everybody that comes over the house, especially white folks, because they need to hear that, you know, so that they know more about all of us. Because what he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And, you know, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. And say, oh, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And the next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. Okay, and you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it. Because I was so moved that I had to write the song. The other thing is the first line of the song says I was born on the same plantation in the United States of the red, white, and blue. And we live in a place now that feels just about like a plantation. We're all indentured servants, you know. When I found out there were 8 presidents before George Washington, I wanted to smack somebody. You know, I wanted to know why I was taught otherwise. Just tell me the whole story. I'll fill in the blanks, but don't, you know, don't tell me something that you think I'm supposed to know.
We're indentured servants and we got a black president now?
I don't vote. I have nothing to do with it. I got no dog in that race.
And for those who would cuss me out and slap me in person if I didn't ask you why?
Well, the reason why is because I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and we've never voted. And that's not to say that I don't think Barack Obama, President Obama, is a very smart individual, and he seems like he means well. Prophecy is what we all have to go by now. It's very interesting. I did a sold-out concert in London. We played 21 nights in a row, and all the concerts were sold out. When I would watch television over there, and you'd see the United Nations feed, the direct feed from the United Nations, you'd hear them talk a lot about religion. You'd hear the Bible mentioned constantly. This is not what we're used to in the United States. It's almost as though there's no need for God and no need for religion and justice in politics. So there's supposed to be a separation of church and state over here. we can't have a separation of state and morality, though. And, you know, songs like Dreamer and even Feel Good, it's the same thing.
Can I ask you about Colonized Mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colonized Mind has to do with the state of the union right now, state of the union for all of us, not just black, not just white, but all of us. Yesterday we spoke a little bit about how I was raised, and my father, he was a very strong individual who demanded a very high standard from me in everything. You said something very interesting, is that I could have turned out a mean person. I do have that side of me, but what I try to do is I, to the best of my ability, funnel it back into the music. Larry Graham is a dear friend of mine. I just want to say what's up to him and Tina and Aaron and Latia. I'll be home shortly. I'm having a lot of fun out here, though, so I just want to say something. Larry has got a volatile side to him, too. He told me a story once. I hope Larry, I got to tell this. I just got to tell it. One time, Larry and Freddie from Sly and the Family Stone are on their way to a gig to open for Jimi Hendrix. Now, right then, I'm shaking, can't wait to hear what's about to go down. On the way to the gig, they pick up some of their amplifiers, and their car is loaded with these amplifiers, right? It's hard to see, but they're driving and they're late trying to get to the gig. They either hit this guy or a guy runs into them, but there's an accident, right? In the middle of the street in New York. Larry jumps out the car, whoops this dude's backside.
Yeah.
Freddie's with him. You know, they both from Oakland, so you know what time it is, right? I don't even want to see what the other dude look like.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like he got that side to him, right? And I was just taken by that part of the story. But then I asked him, I said, so when you got to the gig, like, what happened? Who won the battle between you and Hendrix? And Larry said, oh, we spanked him.
Yeah.
I said, wait, you spanked Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, we spanked him. I said, it's Larry Graham, man.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, same thing with him. If you listen to his music, you can hear the bass and the funk, the anger is in songs like People and Water and It Ain't No Fun to Me and stuff like that. You know, so that's what I learned from. You know, that's my teacher.
Feel Better, Feel Good, Feel Wonderful. I love the title. I love the song, but I love the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about telling folks to celebrate and stop hating. There are references in the song, though, to a record executive who we've had some pretty interesting conversations. And there's a line that says, you tried to do me like my good brother Steve. All right. What we believe happens in the music industry is this, is that you can put out a record and SoundScan refuses to count as many as they actually sell. But you get paid on what SoundScan says that you sold. So if it's a low number, then you only get paid on that number. Meanwhile, when you go overseas and you check some of the barcodes and titles over there, they've already ripped you off several different times in several different ways. Also, with the influx of the internet, you know, no sales, then you've really gotten your bank account emptied out. So we never really knew what Purple Rain sold. I don't know to this date. I only know what they tell me. You know, we're conducting an audit, but, you know, who knows?
A whole bunch.
Yeah. We suspect.
Yeah. Old school company on Minneapolis Sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just an ode to how I grew up and what we used to listen to. And there's a few current references in regards to bailouts given to, you know, banks and things like that. Whereas there's a lot of us, you know, in the hood still going through the same stuff. Now, it's interesting, I don't live there anymore, but I have to take care of a lot of people that live back there. And it'd just be best to, I hear a lot of talk about redistribution of the wealth and stuff like that. It'd just be best to let us try running things on our own for a minute. You know, give us our master tapes back. Let us sell just like you sell. You know, if you go to the internet, you'll see artists with 51 million hits. You know, they say there's like 200 million people on MySpace. That's a nation, okay? I would shudder to look at their bank records, you know, with the music that goes through there.
Depending on one's perspective, you are either a genius for doing stuff like this, doing it yourself, distributing it yourself, et cetera, et cetera. You're either a genius or you are a hater of the industry, a hater of the way things have been done, ought to be done. Tell me the strategy behind your doing what you do these days.
Well, first of all, there's no hate involved. I mean, I welcome the industry to stay and remain the way it is. I mean, it's actually good because, you know, when I'm sitting talking with somebody like Anita Baker, we can point to the industry as the way we don't want to do it anymore. We don't believe in free goods, and we don't believe in you know, 90% of the contract the way it's written now, the standard contract. We don't believe in 360 deals. Anybody that signs one of those are absolutely crazy. But it's a free country, you can do whatever you want. The thinking behind this was to introduce a new artist to the world, somebody who is very dear to me, and her music, it's soothing, it soothes me. I'm not a big fan of male vocalists, you know. Usually when I do ballads, I use my higher register because I love the female voice doing slow music. I spoke too soon and mistakenly compared Bria's music to Sade's music. I didn't mean that she sounded like Sade, but I did mean that there's a romance that is presence in Sade's music that, like the song Love is Stronger Than Pride. It's one of the most beautiful tunes ever. And there's a romance that was missing in today's music. And the best thing I could tell Bria was, try to do something that is not happening today. Try to get into a niche, because you have a beautiful voice, but you've got to do something with it that you don't hear. And that's what she's done. And it's one of those sleeper records that, you know, if people play and listen to all the way through, she got you.
Why am I not hearing a lot of this on radio?
I think it's because I'm not signed with a major label. Target is not a record company. They're a distributor and a retail store, and a very good one at that. 30 million people go through their stores every week. So they get a chance to pick up the Lotus Flower record. The beautiful thing about the relationship is that they're treating us like any other record company. They buy the same amount and they pay the same price. So, you know, we've done quite well already. Bria's taken care of, I'm taken care of. I hope to do more deals like this with artists like Anita Baker and John Blackwell, Rhonda, and Renato. We're trying to work on some jazz things right now. But time will tell.
It was pretty amazing to me, though, that without radio, it's just me talking, without radio airplay, with a sole, a singular distributor, you end up missing #1 when this thing dropped by, like, it's like Maxwell Smart missed it by that much. Yeah. That was serious.
Well, there again, you know, that's when the fighter in me comes out, and
right.
You know, I think about Jack Johnson knocking somebody down 3 and 4 times, and then they still say he lost the fight or something. You know, it's SoundScan said that it was #2. Other charts say there was #1. So it doesn't make a difference to me one way or another. What makes a difference to me is that history is told truthfully, and that's not always the case. I love golf and basketball and sport and boxing especially because it's mano a mano, and we hold our own at the box office. It would be wonderful if it was on the radio. It's shocking that it's not. There's stuff on there, all of Minneapolis Sound you could put on the radio tomorrow, but there's some resistance to it. You'll have to ask your friends at radio. The few I've asked haven't given me a straight answer yet, so I don't know.
If you had a station or a string of stations that you were the program director of, owner and program director, what would it sound like?
I would just want it to be good music, and I'd want it to be littered with artists who own their master rights, because without that, they don't own any wealth. They can't put back into their community. There's very few artists that do own their masters right now. When that changes in the future, you'll see more radio stations being purchased. You'll see airwaves changing ownership rapidly.
Because you obviously are, you told a Jimi Hendrix story earlier, and because obviously you are the greatest, one of the greatest guitarists of our time.
Man, I like this show.
No, what do you mean? You know what? We just tell the truth around here. We just tell the truth. I'm just trying to be a truth teller. What do you make? What do you make of this? Thank you. What do you make of this Guitar Hero?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'm mad at them. I hear it made like $2 billion, and they came to us and offered us a very small portion of that. But I just think it's more important that kids learn how to actually play the guitar. It's a tough instrument. It's not easy. It took me a long time, and it was frustrating at first. And you just have to stick with it. And it's cool for people who don't have time to learn the chords or ain't interested in it, but to play music is one of the greatest things. To create something from nothing is one of the greatest feelings, and I don't know, I wish it upon everybody. It's heaven.